Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Michelle Thorman, and I'm privileged to serve you as the Vice President on your Board of Directors. I'm joining you from a beautiful fall day here in western Wisconsin, just on the banks of the Mississippi River, and I hope it's every bit as lovely where you are today. We are joined today to hear a very practical, pragmatic webinar called Authorization to Practice. Let's show it on our Licensure Lookup page. And we're joined by three pros who have done this in unique ways that we can gain from and hear their stories. First of all, we have Missy Anthony, the Executive Director from Ohio OT, PT, and Athletic Trainer Licensing Board. Kathy Arney, the Executive Director from North Carolina, and from Louisiana, Charlotte Martin, Executive Director of the Louisiana Licensing Board. Thank you, ladies, for being with us. We stand ready to hear your wisdom.
Thank you, Michelle. We are very excited as panelists and speakers today to share some information with you about one aspect of public protection that we are providing in our state. We all share this as part of our mission as regulators, and so I hope that this information is useful for you as it is for us. We're going to start out by having a little question and answer on Slido. And I think if you've been to any recent FSBPT or PT Compact presentations, you've probably done the Slido before. But just in case you haven't, use your phone to scan the QR code and then click that link to slido.com. If you prefer to do it just entering slido.com into a browser, and if you need to, if it asks you, then enter this code number that's on the screen. So the number is number 3880491. And so if you'll take a moment and do that right now, we'll ask a few questions in a couple of minutes to get us kicked off. So Rich, I can ask you to do the next slide, please. Thank you. So when we talk about licensure verification, this is one way of knowing whether someone has a license in your state. It also could tell you whether a PT or PTA has a compact privilege to practice or any other type of information that your jurisdiction might offer about those that are authorized to practice. Another example of this is in North Carolina, we're required to issue military members who are not eligible for compact privileges a permit to practice if they're just going to be in the state for a temporary period of time and they're not going to obtain a license. Similarly, some other states have registries for various things. So when you look at this screen, it's kind of busy, but what you're seeing is about 10 or 11 examples of how different states have a license verification or licensee lookup on their website. And each one of these, for the most part, offers you multiple ways that you can enter information or to narrow down who you're looking for in those fields. And so most of the time, you only need to enter a small amount of information and then a list of those licensees or one specific licensee is going to pop up. And from there, you can obtain the information that you're looking for about whether they're authorized to practice in your jurisdiction. So many different ways, but we're all looking for the same thing, verification of who can practice in your state. So next slide, please. All right, so we're gonna work on the Slido, but the first thing I wanted to tell you about these questions, the preliminary questions that we're going to ask you. These questions are from the board assessment resource. And if you haven't been to FSBPT's website to check out the board assessment resource, it's a tool that is a variety of questions about 4 different topics about how boards perform their duties in the role of public protection. And for those of you who maybe are new to a board or you're trying to get a handle on the board that you've joined, where are they now? What do they do? You can use this tool to just answer a set of questions. Do you do this? Do you not do this? And it walks you through these different aspects of board performance. But the questions that we're drawing from today are about licensure verification, and it's under the section on licensure. Okay, next slide, please. So the first question, again, here on the left, if you didn't get a chance to enter that or get the Slido poll going on your phone, you can go ahead and take a minute to do that now. But the first question is, does the board have a publicly available mechanism to verify an individual's licensure status? Well, look at that. That was within a second. That's a record, 100%. Way to go. All right. I guess from there we can, well, we got 20 people who've answered. I think there are maybe about 30 folks that are on the webinar today. So let's give everybody a chance to answer. Keep that number at 100%. All right. Oh, 23, we're getting closer. So if I can make an assumption, you know, we're all invested in this mission of public protection and knowing who is in our state and being able to offer that to the public, no matter, you know, where they come from, other licensees, the public, patients, whomever that might be. Great. All right. So let's move to the next one. 100%. Does the board educate stakeholders that verification of licensure is available? So how do you let your public know whether that lookup or that license verification is available? All right, so far with 11, we got 100%. So when I was thinking about this question, right before our recent board meeting, I had our board members take this SPAR questionnaire. And, you know, I said to them, you know, you may or may not know the answer to these questions, but just answer this to the best of your ability. And so, yes, well, there are many ways to educate stakeholders, you know, any publications that you have, extra information on responses to questions, website, obviously. But yes, so we got 24 this time, 100%. We're on a roll. Okay, next question, please. Is the verification updated in real time? So that's part A of this question. And part B is, does your board do this? So for example, Charlotte and I come from independent boards. So we're only looking at physical therapists. So our board has an independent website and data system. So we're the ones that are doing it. Others of you may come from another jurisdiction where they have another type of board structure. And so it might be a third party or another state entity that's doing that. So is it updated in real time? And does the board do the updating? So this time we're about 75, 25. And the answers might be a little different this time because it may not be in real time, but maybe it's once a week that you're updating it, or once a month, or some other defined real time. So as it's entered into your data system, does then it populate your website? So as close to real time as possible. That might change some answers, maybe not. And I'm not sure that there's a right or wrong answer here. It's more the ideal, so that those of us who want to know who's in your state, or if we're trying to find someone, if that answer is real time, then we're going to know that we can count on that. And I think you saw on the first slide, I think there was at least one state that says it's primary source and updated in real time. And so in the chat, there was someone that said that theirs is updated daily. So certainly as close to real time. And there may be some other answers. All right, so thank you for that. Let's go to the next question. Does the verification include relevant licensee information, including disciplinary history? Here we go again, back to that 100%. We all have listened to many Dale Atkins webinars on regulation, and I think we're demonstrating that by having this information on our website. All right, so we've got 26, and there are a few people that are answering no. And I would say at one point in time, North Carolina did not have that either. And it actually became mandated by our legislature. So then we had to figure out how to get that information into our database and then how to upload that into the website. So, it may be a matter of a need for programming or something that you have. And one of the other speakers is going to talk about how you might be able to obtain some funds to be able to do that. Okay, next slide, please. All right, so we have another question, but this is kind of to help you figure out sort of where you fit in this, answering this question to begin with. And as you might know, this is a map of the Physical Therapy Compact and what the status of your state is. So, if you don't know what the status of your state is relative to the PT Compact, take a look at the map. And if your state is in dark blue, that's a state that's not only a member of the PT Compact where they've passed that model language, but then also are now issuing privileges from your state. You might be in various states of readiness or still deciding, but if you're in dark blue, that's you're issuing and a member. And then the question addresses all types of different board statuses about the compact. So next slide, please. All right, so do you include compact privilege information on your verification page? So if you know the answer to that, put it in the chat. You may not know, and not sure is a reasonable answer, but something to find out. Okay, so about 50%. Getting closer to 40. Oh, yes, is about 30. No is a greater percentage, about 40%. And then not sure, or you're not a member of the compact, about 16, 17%. So, one way to check it is to go check your website in your jurisdiction and try to find the PT compact lookup on that page. All right, awesome. Thank you very much for all of your answers on that. So why have this information on your website? Well, I think, as demonstrated by the answers on the Slido poll, everybody's very invested in public protection, and you want to know who is working in your state. When the pandemic occurred, we have an exemption in our Practice Act where anybody that's been displaced or they need to come to your state to work because they had family or it wasn't safe in their state or there was a need, those people were also put on our website at that time. So that way you had an idea of what people were doing. But we're also learning through the PT Compact that some other interested parties want to know about who's working in your state. And two examples of those are, insurance carriers. Some are doing credentialing for insurance and, approving those eligible to receive payment for physical therapy services. And they want to see that on your website. They don't necessarily want to go somewhere else. They want to find it in that state's website that they're doing that credentialing for. Secondarily, employers. Every year we go through this at renewals and we say, oh, we really wish that employers knew that this is available on their website, because then they can see whether somebody renewed or see whether that license is current. And with prospective employers for new graduates, for example, or people just moving to your state, they need to check and see whether that person is licensed in North Carolina before they start to practice. We don't have temporary permits in North Carolina, and we don't allow new graduates to practice without having that license. So it's really important for, not only the license holder or the compact privilege holder themselves, but also for other reasons to have that information on our website. So next slide, please. So when we first joined the PT Compact, we started out having a notification on our lookup page, but it was below where the licensee lookup was, that said, go to ptcompact.org if you wanted to find out if there was a compact privilege holder. Well, beyond the fact that people were not as familiar with PT Compact or the privileges that were being issued and how that was being done, I think that kind of got lost in the busyness of our page. And we were invested in having this on our website. Our board had a discussion that they believed that we needed to have everybody that had authorization to practice in our state on the website and available for the public to be able to find them. But we also hadn't built an internal mechanism to be able to push that information out to our website because we were doing everything manually. So we started out this way, but we were also finding we were getting a lot more calls and a lot more email because it wasn't easily available for people to find. These are just 3 examples of jurisdictions where you might have answered, yeah, we've got that on our website, but it's taking you outside to a third party. And sometimes people who are looking for information like these insurance credentialers, they don't want to go to a third party. They want one click and they want to see it on your state's website in order for them to determine that it's a valid information. Next slide, please. So I should have moved to the next, but this is what on the right-hand side is what the PT Compact verification page looks like, where you can enter, again, just a very small or simple pieces of information, and you should be able to find the compact privilege holder that you're looking for. But again, not everybody wants to click out to that third party information. They want to be able to see it with as few clicks as possible because that's what we all like to do. And also, they may not understand that this is valid information as well. Next slide, please. So this is a short video. There's no sound to it, but it's a short video on one option or one way you can show things on your website, licensee lookup on your website. Awesome. All right, so that's North Carolina and part of our story, and I'm gonna turn it over at this point to Missy Anthony from Ohio so she can share with you her experiences.
Hey, everybody. Here to talk a little bit about Ohio. In Ohio, I am the executive director of the OTPTAT board. So it is a multi-professional board, as you can tell by its title. But we are still an independent board where the members of the board are appointed by the governor. But I like to think sometimes we have the best of both worlds and that we have some shared services amongst the licensing boards here in Ohio. And one of them is a shared e-licensing website that performs our essential licensing functions and serves to display license verifications across many professions in the state of Ohio. And the direct link for that website is elicense.ohio.gov. Next slide. So again, this is a statewide system where pretty much all of the healthcare workers, but also other licenses such as architects and engineers and accountants can be verified on one single website. And it's marketed that way. All of the licensing boards do varying levels of education to both the public and the licensees that this is where this centralized information can be found. And this website would include, as applicable, depending on what your state offers, licensees. In our case, it also includes compact privilege holders. But if the state licensed temporary licensees, we don't, but or telehealth registries or military licenses, anything like that could be included in one central lookup like this. In Ohio, We are also, it's a huge benefit where our state Medicaid agency is aware that we have this centralized lookup that it performs in real time, meaning when we make an update in the back office, when we license someone, they can be looked up almost simultaneously on the public lookup. And that the data from our licensing system does a daily upload into the state Medicaid agency's billing software so that they have they have daily, not real time, but they have daily updates on licensing data from the state licensing boards. And so when we revoke a license, the state Medicaid agency would know that and can cut off payment the next day. But we also believe that this really eases the ability of compact privilege holders to be able to have their services reimbursed to the state of Ohio, because they are also included in that daily upload of data to our state Medicaid agency. Next slide. So why did we want to include compact privilege holders in our state lookup? I remember when Ohio was first onboarding onto the compact, we were probably one of the middle states to join up. And I remember having a conversation early on with members of the compact leadership and FSBBT leadership about the task list I was trying to accomplish. And one of the items on that checklist is to include a link to the PT Compact lookup page on our own board website. And that's fine. That was, in my case, pretty easy to do. But it really occurred to me that there was no way that the public was going to know the difference between a license holder and a compact privilege holder. I mean, it would take a very educated consumer of services to be able to ask that question and know the difference. And so, in my opinion, one of the most powerful things of interstate licensure compacts is the data that it holds and the ability to share that data. And so being able to share that data as a part of the broader picture of practitioners in Ohio seemed like one of the most important pieces of the board's duty to fulfill its mission of public protection. So I immediately set about trying to figure out the best way for Ohio to include that information in our licensing database. Next slide. So here's a slide. It is meant to illustrate the states that we know of that are displaying compact privilege information within their state's licensure verification system. So I think there's 9 states listed. And that's just what we know of. If you happen to be sharing this information in your own lookup and you don't see your state in dark blue, my apologies, but please let us know, because that's great news. The more, the merrier. Next slide. So when I tell my story about how we wanted to start sharing this information, when we first went about it, when we first started issuing compact privileges in Ohio, the really only choice to do it was through manual entry. And being new to the compact and having 3 licensed administrators who work really hard, they were able to get this done by taking the emails that we were sent from the compact and entering that information and creating a new record in our licensing system. But we quickly found out that this is not an ideal solution. First of all, it's manual entry. It's rife with human error. It required extra work by our team here, and extra work by me or another supervisor who would recheck that information for errors. So definitely more than several hours a week were spent in trying to get this done. It also wasn't a timely situation. Unlike the rest of our data, where we can issue a license and it automatically appears on the public lookup, that was obviously not happening if we were doing manual entry of the compact privileges. So our goal was to enter this data weekly, which isn't the real-time nature of a regular licensee. So again, not an ideal situation. So next slide. So how can we do it better? When I heard about new technology to automate this, I was eager to jump on it because automating this information definitely improves the accuracy. We spend much less time trying to make sure this data is correct. And it also improves the timeliness. Now we receive daily emails, daily information from the compact on who has purchased a compact privilege that day. And we also receive more timely emails when a termination or something of a different nature happens. And all of that syncs up with our system automatically. And we do this through the API, which is a term, if you've been around FSBPT lately, you've probably heard before. An API stands for Application Programming Interface. And in our case, when that data comes in, it comes in alongside the FSBPT ID. It also comes in with MPTE scores. We receive our MPTE scores through an API. Also, it comes in with JAM scores and the compact privilege information. And what's also been really nice about using the API in this way is we were able to work with our developers for eLicense Ohio. And when a compact privilege comes in, it automatically checks the system to see if there are JAM scores that also exist for that same person or that same FSBPT ID. And then if they do exist, it pulls them in and they're pulled into the compact record on our back end side. And so it's very easy for us to go through and check to make sure that they have completed the JAM as they're required for an Ohio compact privilege. So not only has it automated and made more accurate our public information display, it has also made life easier for us on the back end. Next slide. So here's that same chart of states where there are 9 that we know of that are displaying compact privilege information. And we know that 4 states are doing it via the API and an additional 5 states are doing it via manual entry. So there may be some better ways to get that done, and we'll let Charlotte tell you a little bit about that. But before we do, here's a quick website, how it looks in Ohio. A couple of notes. You can see here why, first of all, this little video starts from the OTPTAT board website. In an ideal situation, a consumer is starting directly from the eLicense website, which is this slide right here. But you can also see, because we share a website, it was going to be very difficult for us to list the PT Compact Lookup directly on our shared licensing website. We could only put that on our board website. So there you go. And that's Ohio. So back to Kathy, who has the great fun of describing the technology.
So thank you, Missy, and thank you for introducing the API. What I want to say, just a few more things about the API itself is, so Missy described that it's this application programming interface, and when this idea was brought up to us about utilizing this as a way to minimize this manual entering of data so that we would get it on our website, I was like, what is that? So if you're PT and you're attending this webinar, you may not know what this is either, or if you're a non-IT professional, or that's just not something that you work with every day, this is sort of by definition, on the internet, it's a protocol or set of rules that enables 2 software applications to communicate and exchange data. So I want to say a little bit more about that first. Again, I'm a PT by training, and there's so much focus on security these days because, as Missy points out, that is one of our greatest values, is that we have this data and we pretty much exclusively have it related to the professions that we, administer or supervise in our states. but you need that data to remain secure. So I was like, I don't think we're going to do this. I don't know that I believe it's secure. Similarly, we have had enough work put in trying to do all this manual entry. So how's this data that we've worked hard to get in there going to remain accurate? Well, the answer to both of these is yes, it is secure and it does preserve the accuracy of your information because of the way it works. So what we did was embarked on obtaining a grant so that we could create this API. And what it required was, on our end, we had to create a program that would enable the data that we were taking from FSBPT, such as exam scores and compact privilege holder information. We had to make room for it in the database so that when it came to us, there was a place to put it. And so this blue thing in the middle here is the tunnel. And I'm going to explain it to you in my layperson understanding of this. Because this tunnel exists inside of our system and FSBPT's system, those data systems have a lot of security around it, and probably even more so since we had a cyber incident a couple of years ago. And so this tunnel lives inside of your system. And, it's a tunnel because the tunnel's got a hole in the middle of it. And that data is going to go through the hole in the middle of the tunnel. But the reason why it's secure is because there are doors on each end of this tunnel. And when data is being put into the tunnel, it cannot come out the other side unless that door is opened. And in the case of us, it's opened by us, and there has to be it's a password protected way to get that door open so that we can accept that data, and then we close the door again. Now, similarly, as a member of the compact, we're required to provide data to FSBPT so we can keep this information as current as possible. And so you're required to provide it at least once a week. With an FSBPT ID, which is now used as the unique identifier. So you're not sharing social security numbers anymore and keeping that secure. So that's just another kind of layer of security. So once I became comfortable with that, the programming was done. We got the grant, the programming was done, and we started to use this. It is truly life-changing. And I've heard other states that have used it, particularly Karen Gordon, talk about how happy their licensing staff is because this data is coming to you, and then there's a place for it in your database that's already there. And our database automatically pushes some of this information out to our website. So this is truly, truly awesome. And certainly cuts the manual workload, which also reduces the errors. Next slide, please. So this slide for me, it's really busy, but what you can see is on the left is the jurisdiction. So this is the work that's going on in the office that's served your licensure board. And there are, minimum 3 steps, 3 hops to get this into your data system, your server, the cloud, however you're doing it. And then at FSBPT, there's information about, or you send this information to them, and FSBPT systems, it has to get into their system and it's reviewed and cleaned up. So there are also multiple steps that happens on their end. This is the way it happens if you're not using this API. So you can see, there's at least 4 or 5 hops that this stuff has to go through when there are people involved in all of that. So that's just to kind of depict the manual nature, and every time it passes through a different person's hand or a different system's hand, there's chances for error. So let's go to the next slide. And if you're using the API process, it's 1 step on each end. You take what's in your system, you send it through that tunnel, knocking on each end of the door and making sure that those doors are secure when you're not intending to send or receive something. And then it goes into the other system. really, really nice. And it does work as advertised. And so this really has truly been a significant improvement and automation for our board. Next slide. I think this is now turning over to Charlotte Martin of Louisiana for their board's experience.
Thank you, Kathy. So this is Charlotte Martin. I am the Executive Director of the Louisiana Physical Therapy Board. And our board is an independent board. We only license physical therapists and physical therapist assistants. And we have an independent board website. So we only display information about PTs and PTAs on our website. Our website used to have PT compact verification website, like see the PT compact verification website if you wanted to look up a compact privilege holder who was practicing in Louisiana or who had a privilege to practice in Louisiana. And my board brought up several times that they wanted all information on individuals practicing in our state on our website. And I said, that sounds great. Like, I agree, a one-stop shop would be great. As we heard before, the likelihood of somebody understanding that they need to click on this other link and go to this other website to look up an individual and to know whether they have a privilege or not is really not ideal in today's day and age. We need one click, we need one place. However, what I had to tell my board was, administratively, that is unrealistic for us. Expiration dates are changing based on the home state expiration date. So it's not like we can go in and, we will be changing this daily. And I wasn't sure that we could do it in an accurate way, that we could maintain information accurately, or that we could do it in a timely manner. We have a very small staff. We're an independent board. So at one of the FSBPT meetings, I spoke to Rich about it, and he said, well, the API would be a great solution for you. At the time, we were also sharing data on a weekly basis with, licensure information for the ELDD. And he said, there's an opportunity to share the information more quickly than weekly. And I said, okay, well, that's something to think about. And then also, whenever we learned more about the API, although the motivation for my board was really to have the compact privileges posted on our website once we became a member of the compact, it was also really beneficial to have the licensing information updated quickly. And then the NPTE results transfer reduces human error. And then, so it made a lot of sense for us. So next slide, please, Rich. So we went through all the same steps that were mentioned before about, well, I don't know anything about this API. I've never heard of this API. I'm kind of scared of this API, right? Anything that's changed, that's new, that you've never heard of, I thought they're going to go into our database and they're going to be, putting their fingers all over our information. I don't know if Louisiana is going to be okay with that. And then, so what we did is we had our IT team have a conversation with their IT team, because I'm not an IT person. And all of those concerns were put to rest, because I told my IT team, I said, if you let us know that it's safe, secure, then I'll feel safe and secure with it. And so it's completely safe and secure according to my IT team. Then the next thing was, well, wait a minute, we maintain our own website. And this sounds like this might be expensive, because it's something new technology, it's fancy. And so we said, I don't know, I'm not sure about this. So we wanted to look at, next slide, please, Rich. We were looking at the FSBPT news brief, and we saw that there was available funding opportunity. So the board of directors of the FSBPT set money aside generously and made grants available for states that were interested in applying for a grant, or jurisdictions that were interested. And they said we could use this to display our compact privilege information online, but then also just to benefit from the API overall. So we thought that was great. The licensure process, the application process was quick and easy. We wrote a letter, we addressed it to Bill Hatherell, and it was reviewed by the board of directors, and it was approved. And we were excited about this. And as many things happen, as you administrators know, once you get a project going, you may find out that, oops, I didn't see something. And so you can go to the next slide, Rich. So this is the picture of our website. And as you'll see, whenever we navigate through the website, you'll see how we can do our licensure lookup. And whenever we get to a lookup of a licensee, we can show you, this is where you type in their name, and we'll show you that compact privileges show up as well as licensees. The blue boxes are licensees, and the white box is the compact privilege holder. And the print button right there at the bottom, we realized at the midway through the project that the license verification page had the print feature, so you could print it, but the compact privilege verification page didn't have the print button. And so this was something we didn't realize at first. So we wrote a second letter for the board of directors to consider an additional grant fund for us to be able to add that print feature. And that was approved, and it was added, as you can see, on our website. And it was really quick and easy. So next slide, please, Rich. So I would recommend, if you're interested in learning more about this, I would recommend set up a meeting with your IT team along with the FSBPT team. You can contact Rich to talk to him about it, and he can get in touch with his appropriate staffers to talk about this, to put your mind at ease. That's the most important thing before you start any of this, answer all the questions that you have. And then if you want to learn more about the grant funding opportunity, you can, ask Bill Hatherold. He does have information about that, and he's the best resource for that. So with that, we will open up the floor to questions. You can unmute and ask a question directly here. And if we have any questions in the chat, we can read those out loud so that they'll be on the recording in the future.
While we're waiting for questions from the audience, let me just pose this. Are there embellishments that you still see in your future, in addition to the amazing work that you've already done?
In Ohio, there's this little nuance because we're a shared data system, and the nursing board came in, and there's now a separate compact column in the lookup, and it is primarily used for the nursing compact privileges. They have a different kind of multi-state license set up, very different structure to their compact. However, their licenses show a checkbox when it is a multi-state license. And so I am pursuing a correction there so that it is not as confusing when a compact privilege shows up, but it doesn't have that compact multi-state checkbox checked. But that's a pretty simple thing, but could be an improvement for clarity's sake.
Thanks. Are there other questions from our audience participants?
I can speak to North Carolina a little bit, but then maybe some other states have things that they could consider. We also have a requirement that military members, if they can't get a compact privilege, our state is required to offer them a privilege to practice. And I'm not sure that is completely up on the website yet. So that's going to need to be added. But then also, with telehealth registries and other kinds of information, maybe some of you maintain registration for certain aspects of advanced practice. That information could also be, added to the website. And then also for us, it's really important that the disciplinary information is available, and you can go right to the consent order or the public aspects of discipline. And if you have questions, I can direct you to send an email if you need more information.
Very good.
Charlotte,
Stephen, you have a hand up.
I do. My question was, as far as from start to finish with the beginning of the API process to implementation, how long did it usually take for you guys in your states?
In Ohio's case, it happened fairly quickly. From the writing of the grant proposal to board of directors approval, that is a very efficiently processed system that FSBPT has. And so from there, it was a matter of, in Ohio's case, we had to kind of get in the queue for projects within our e-license shared database. And so that, I think it was a couple of months backlog before they got to this project. But that was okay, because in the meantime, I had to arrange our ability to get additional appropriation authority so we could accept the grant money. So on the whole, in government terms, it was actually quite speedy and easy.
Stephen, I can echo the fact that in North Carolina, the whole grant process was probably one of the easiest things I've ever done. And that was done very quickly. And then in our case, we needed some programming assistance. And at that time, FSBPT was able to help us with finding that. And some of it is dependent on your system, like what is your system, and is that easily, compatible with the information that FSBPT already has. But it's truly a matter of software programming. And so I think we had to take a couple of cracks at it we started it working at one point, and then it took us a few little tries to get our knocking and door opening adequate, but that was kind of maybe a user issue. So we just had to get used to it. But to Missy's point, it didn't take that long in terms of other projects that we've done that have taken years, as opposed to, years, it took months.
Yeah, and in Louisiana, same basic idea. We applied for the grant around the time of the annual meeting. And so the board was going to be meeting soon. So the review process was really quick for us because the board was meeting right then. And that was great. And we had to say we had to give them a time frame for whenever the project would be complete. And so we put in, we looked at our website priorities, because we already had a list of priorities that we were working on. And so we needed to determine if we were going to put this above other priorities or push it later. And because we weren't sure if grant funding was going to be approved again for 2024, we went ahead and moved it up on our list. And we were able to get the whole thing done very, very quickly, because we asked our website company to push the other projects aside to get this completed. And so in our case, with the grant funding, our vendor received the money directly. So I had concerns about reporting grant funding to our state and all of that. So I didn't want any exchange of money directly with our state agency. So FSBPT was able to write the check directly to our website vendor and pay them for the service. So.
Good. Thanks for your question, Stephen. Are there other questions? All right, panelists, anything else you would like to offer as conclusion of our presentation here?
I'll say that this is a very, very public demonstration of a board's commitment to public protection. And you have this on your website. It's easily available for anyone that has access to a computer and can get to your website. And then, the second layer is really making sure that all of your stakeholders understand that it's there and it's available for them. And, is it primary source? Is it real time? In what way can they trust that information? But you know, regardless of whether it's real time or not, it's there and it's available for them to utilize, and they can trust that information because you're the only entity within your state, most likely, that has 100% of that information.
Very good. Very good. Well, if there are no other questions, I'm just sitting here thinking, gosh, it's secure, it's accurate, it improves efficiency. I think I heard one of you say it was a game changer for your staff and their support to make it happen in collaboration with the Federation of State Boards. So, Kathy, Charlotte, Missy, thank you for showing us the way and your powerful examples. And others know that if and down the road your jurisdiction's thinking about this and the time is right for you to do it, this video is being recorded for you to be able to go back and reference the information that you heard here today. So thank you all. Kathy, Charlotte, Missy, thank you so much. We've got a couple of other webinars coming up here soon. On October 16th, Dale Atkinson will return to us talking about state deference. State deference at 4 o'clock on October 16th, 4 o'clock Eastern time. And then a special presentation, especially to those of you who are educators or students, on November 6th at 7 p.m. Eastern time. One of our first student-focused webinars called This Could Never Happen to Me, Protecting Yourself and Preventing Sexual Misconduct will be held. I'm really looking forward to that, and I hope we have a standing room only crowd on video. So thank you all for joining us today. Be well and carry on the important work that you do with our appreciation. Bye-bye.